Yeah, you know, put your head up next to it. Yeah, I'll take your phone.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcus Bush. No, not the projector. Give you a little brief history about myself. After I did that military route, I was in military police. Actually got to from Tennessee, moved out and worked at Fort Leavenworth as a prison guard when I was in the Army for a few years, which then led to law enforcement. Went back home to Tennessee, did law enforcement for another 4 or 5 years after that, and that's when I started to realize, I don't know, maybe I didn't belong in a small town anymore. And I got into retail. I mean, as a cop, you drive up to those fights, and things like that, and the redneck people, and some of those ones. I'll kill every chicken you got, some stuff like that. The other guys, well, I'll flatten the tires on your house because everybody lived in trade. So, yeah. So I was like, I just don't know if I belong anymore. So got into retail. That led to retail loss prevention for Lowe's Home Improvement. I was actually with that company for almost 10 years, and I just left them actually to pursue this education in computers. Held 5 different positions with Lowe's. I eventually worked my way up and ended up working in the corporate office for a while. I got to travel around the country. That was really awesome to do. Worked in inventory and auditing and things like that. That landed me in Kansas City, again, close to where I'd been at Leavenworth before. And it was kind of the central part of the country that I could fly out from. So ended up in Kansas City, really liked it here. Then I met my wife and started a family. And the hours I was doing was way too much. So we started looking, at new careers and things like that. Because to me, my family was the most important thing. And, having time to spend with them. People ask me, "Where'd you meet your wife?" It's the best $60 I ever spent. We met on eHarmony. I signed up for a month. Of eHarmony. It was only $60. So we got matched up. She was actually moved out here from Southern California, so close to where Greg worked. And but we moved quick. We got married. We've only been married a couple years. We already had 2 babies, 2 baby boys. So really wanted to see those little guys grow up. We started looking at other things I could do. That's how we found Centric online, and made a decision. I told Lowe's it's been fun, but after 10 years of some crazy hours, I'm going to try to get into something else. I mean, and to me, just computers is the future. If you want to get into something professional that's only getting bigger, development. It sounded like an awesome idea. Met with Russ, started researching things, and thank goodness, I'm here. So, but yeah, I mean, for me, the internet's definitely the future. I mean, I built a whole family off the internet. So, so leads us to the project. My job finder, the guys in class know me as being kind of a front-end development guy. I'm really big on the images and how the site looks and things like that. But with this, I really just wanted to keep it kind of simple and professional. So I went and just found a free template and changed it up a little bit with some colors and images, and it's almost exactly like it came, honestly. If you go to my job finder, I would talk about what this is about, but I went last. Everybody has talked about what the job finder is, so I'll just go into specifics of my site and try not to bore you with what all the other guys did such a great job of telling you already. But if you go to my homepage, it does give just a basic breakdown of what this project was about and why this page even exists. Just a little bit about the site and how it works. You can still navigate to the other pages, the company's postings and contacts, just like you don't have to log in for that. So if you go to companies, I have pretty simple.
It's going.
That might work.
Oh, it's thinking. Slow Daddy.
Yes.
We will. Oh, come on. We were just playing here right before presentation, so hopefully something on there. All right, so I've got basic grid views. Originally, when I first started this project, they looked really fancy. I got into it, and I was really trying to go extravagant. Then I realized, I just want to really focus on functionality of the site. how things work, making sure nothing was broken, which I thought it was a second ago. Making sure nothing was broken, everything was going to work properly. So then I kind of revamped them and made them really simple. I mean, in this particular one for job postings, you just got the title of the job, the date it was posted, company status. We do have hyperlinks entered underneath the job titles where you can go. You can view communications for that particular title. I have similar hyperlinks in the contacts page. If you go to that one, hopefully it'll pull up on time. Yeah, I think it'll work. So we've got particular contacts. I just included title and company name here. If I want to see more about those contacts, we can select them using the magnifying glass icons. And you can select any of those if you want. Just to give an example of some of the details you want here. Yeah. So we got Juan up there. He's the HR manager for Wild Goose Labs. He was just a people person. Seemed like the natural selection, right? It's a little bit of details on that. Here I've got some icons at the bottom. You can go back. You can edit. I can flip this status to inactive if I wanted to. And right now I've only got some tooltips explaining what those are. If I was to go back and do this again, I don't know if I'd get rid of the icons or at least put some words either on or to the side of the icons explaining what they were. Because right now you have to play with it to figure it out if you're a new user to the site. So we can go back. See if company's page pulled up now. So here we got some different companies that I've been looking at. And I actually tried to, even though I do have some test data in here where I just added some things to make sure everything worked. I actually have some real companies that I've been investigating while looking for a job. Let's go ahead and log in. Oh, that's bad. All right. As with the other sites that you've seen, we can toggle between inactive and active. Now we also have an icon to add company at the bottom. So let's go ahead and add a company. In this feature, just like the other, it's hard following these other guys because I can't show you almost anything new. So coming at the end, you can add a new company here. You can also here I just wanted to give you an example of the image upload button. So this again is just a really simple, insert form view. It's not anything fancy. I just kept it down to 2 columns. I wanted a spot for the data to input, and I wanted a spot to the left to tell you what it was. I really want to keep this simple. I'm not sure, yeah, that'll fire a validator. So we got an image upload. And you can use whatever you want for those ways. And then I think the nope. Yeah, you see that's part of the problem. You almost cancel it because I think I need some text there. But to accept that would be the check mark. We should have a new company for Perceptive Software.
That is their end.
Let's move on. Yeah, that's their end. So. All right, so now on the 3rd page, we do have an entry in the grid for Perceptive Software. We can look at their details. And there's their spiffy image, which I pulled directly off their site. A little bit of info that we did enter about that. We can edit from here. We can cancel. We can go back to companies. So, all right. So, like I said, I spent a lot of time making sure that the fundamentals of the site was correct. I want to make sure that things weren't broken, things were going to fire correctly when you clicked on. If you're going to use it, things were going to work right. I did, however, decide to venture outside the box on one little thing that I thought was interesting. I know it was important to my family, like to my wife and I, that if I'm going to look for a job, I'm going to accept one. We need to know how far away it is. It's a big thing, relocation, especially when you own a home and you've got a wife and 2 small children. That's going to be a big deal. So I kind of set myself a threshold. It's like, well, I want to know if anything's going to be more than 50 miles away. I want to be told somehow without having to go to Google Maps and key in their address. So if you go to postings and just click on anything local, like either Red Nova or Propaganda, look the details. Like Rednova, that is a local, a software company here in Kansas City. Here you don't really see anything that has to do, with a distance. That's local. I'm not getting any kind of alert because I don't need one, for a relocation thing. If you go back though, Howie, and click on inactive, check out inactive. My old company, Lowe's, they actually have jobs for applications project manager. Just click on the details for Lowe's. All right, we got this spiffy, blinking relocation required label now. Now the way I got there was the interesting part. This all works now from the details insert of the company. So when you add a company now, there's a spot there for a zip code. So or not company, posting. I apologize. If you go back to postings now, and let's add one. And you can just completely make up anything you want for Wild Goose. That would be a good example. And what you'll notice that's probably different from some of the other posting inserts. That is a job. So what you'll probably see that's different in mine versus some of the other students that came up was I did add a zip code just for postings, not for companies, postings, because like Lowe's I used to work for, we got stores and locations all over the country, but their IT jobs are only in Mooresville, North Carolina. So put in a zip code 38506. That's my old town. You can check, accept that. Now if we go back and find that posting for Juan's friend and we click on it, it automatically gives this label based on the zip code. I did that with a web service. So went out, found a web service. I cannot pronounce the name, but it is in the handout. It's Malakale something consultants.com. And what they offered was a web service that would calculate distance for you based on the zip code. So I have included an example of the code snippet in the handout where it shows how this was accomplished. What I needed to do at that point was hook up the web service to the web application. Once they were hooked up, I needed to go in, I needed to code for a couple of things. One, this label is always here in the details view, but whether it shows or not depends on how many miles away that job is from my home zip code, which you'll see in the code is 64029. So the way I did that was just a pre-render on the label itself, visible, true or false, based on the database column miles away. Was it over 50 or not? That was pretty simple. So then tying in the web service, that required a line of code that basically pulled that functionality out of the web service that compares the two zip codes, and you'll see in the code, hard-coded in blue will be my zip code, and then to the right, the text box for the zip code when you add a new posting. So it compares those two, the web service does that for me. Then you'll see below that I do a little bit of casting, because that web service would return a mileage that was actually pretty big, a lot of decimals. So it'd be like 2 or 3 numbers, decimal, and then maybe 5 or 6 numbers. That's not going to work in your database. So I had to use the math.round and some casting to get that down to a manageable number, and then input it into the database, which would update the miles away column for that posting, and then determine whether or not that label was going to be rendered or not, and alert me if relocation was required. So probably the coolest thing I did, that was the one thing I stepped out of my comfort level on and added that wasn't part of the original, requirements for the site. All right. That is actually, you guys have seen 6 of these now. I could go into more about the other pages and the inserts and the updates. They all do the same thing as the other guys. So, does anyone have any questions? Because that's going to be my presentation, so thank you.
All right, so what was your favorite part?
Favorite part of this was probably setting up all the different grid views and form views and adding the functionality to them and tying them into the database and just seeing results every time. I just went one page at a time and I was building it and seeing it work, and it's like, wow, we just went, and then if I ran into a problem, it's like, I've got notes, because I remember we learned this, 3 weeks ago, so I'd go to those notes, research the stuff we learned. Like Greg said, I go to Google if I got some errors. My biggest resource, though, was my classmates and my instructors. Since we started, we're a pretty tight group, and we communicate in class and outside of class, and on Facebook and everything, so it was very, very valuable. I think just the construction of it, and getting toward the end and seeing everything work and come together without it breaking, that was the best part. Is that I actually started to see it work, having functionality without all the errors. So.
Which part of the class, just overall looking back, do you think was the most challenging week or weeks of class?
The first two, I wondered what I got myself into, because I had. I'm glad you asked that. I did mention earlier, I had no experience in this prior to Centric whatsoever. I knew I liked computers. I had built some computers. I had played lots of video games on them. But, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it, but I had no experience whatsoever in development or even, putting together a web page for anything. So the first couple of weeks, when we started, we did the C# fundamentals and just learning the C# code. I was like, oh, wow. And I started to get stressed, but then when I went home and started reproducing some of the things that I had done in class, it became easier. Repetition, I think, helped me. Is the way I learned. Once I got hands-on and started doing it myself, it's one thing to listen to the lecture that we get during the day, but then to go and apply those things that you've learned and take from your notes and make a similar application to what you did during the day in the lab, that's when it started to come together. And I felt a lot better about it, and up to this point, I'm super excited. I'm glad I did.
I have a question for you, Marcus.
Yeah.
Just as somebody who's leading up to this point that you're at now, is there something specific in one of the areas, either in SQL or C# or something like that, that you found yourself having to revisit that you maybe didn't visit for a long time leading up to that project that you really needed to
for me, it was
focus on again?
For me personally, and I think it's going to be different for everybody. For me, because to me, I have a background a little bit in art. So for me, I knew my strong points in the classes I got excited about. So when we first had Neil for an HTML class and started learning how to build web pages and how they look and playing with CSS and stuff like that, I got super excited about that because, I already had an interest in that. And to me, that's art. I'm sorry, but designing web pages is an art form. Really liked that. But then when you get into code behind, for SQL statements and things, SQL statements and things like that, I'm actually lucky I had Ed because the way he teaches was good for me because it was tough for me to wrap my head around, select statements and how it works with the database. So he actually made it easier. By the end of that week, I felt better about it. But even going into the project, I didn't have to go back and review some SQL to get some of these statements to work for the data that gets displayed in these data sources, using those hyperlinks and using the other text boxes to get the data updated and then displayed again, in the form views. It was a challenge, maybe during that first week. Then when I reviewed my notes and the things we've done in the past with widgets and gadgets and things like that, then it all came together and it became easier. So personally, it was some of the code behind it was probably the hardest part. Anybody else?
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.